Background music looks good. It's not going to take my desktop audio, so I can put the music on in my end. Hello everybody. Let me just finish up this last little bit. Did I put OST? Stream music mix. Woo. Boom. Turn that down to a good volume for me. Nice. Okay. You only just found out about Slay the Spire 2? Nice. Well, glad we could bring another one into the club. Yeah, it is very fun. I've been playing it for a while. How do I get rid of the stupid chat thing? Tried to type a message in chat and now it's just sticking there. Bye. There we go. Okay. Live chat, all message. Cool. So, what are we doing today? So, as you can see, we're doing something a little bit different. Slay the Spire 2 is out. It's very fun. I've been playing it a good bit today and yesterday. And something I noticed was the boss designs are really cool, especially compared to the previous bosses in Slay the Spire 1, which were also pretty cool, but these ones absolutely take the cake for their unique mechanics. And in a lot of ways, I think the changes to the bosses in Slay the Spire 2 are something you can absolutely learn from when you're creating Stars of the City enemies. So I wanted to work in kind of a very different design space in order to sort of break us out from the normal sort of cycle of creating enemies that use more or less the same gimmicks in different ways. So I'm looking at three different enemies. Okay. Yes, they did move back a lot of stuff. Yes, so I want to do 3 enemies today. The Ceremonial Beast, which is the big stag boss at the end of Act 1. Phantom, which is the big ink monster, also at the end of Act 1. And the Kaiser Crab, which is the giant crab at the end of Act 2. So, Dark Door, how I'm going to do this is, yes, they are going to be straight up the Slay the Spire enemies. They're going to be designed in such a way. Thankfully, all of these enemies I've chosen are enemies that would classify as monsters, specifically not as non-humans. These are enemies that theoretically could be in the city, if you would like to just throw them into your games verbatim, but you can also reflavor them. So, they are going to be mostly the same as their original counterparts, but I've specifically not chosen any that are too human, or too, like, intelligent, I should say. So, let's see. First off, Ceremonial Beast. I did get a screenshot of this one. I just couldn't put it anywhere on the sheet, just because there's this big ol' shimmering passive that we're gonna get into. But let me show you. Favorite character from Slay the Spire 2? It's hard to tell right now. I do kind of like the Necrobinder, but she's honestly in some ways a little overpowered from what I've seen so far. But we're doing this guy first. So, what does he do in Slay the Spire 2? Unfortunately, there is not a wiki for Slay the Spire 2 just yet, so we can't actually, like, look at its kit fully, but I did fight it and take notes on what it did. So, every turn, after the first, this guy will gain strength and hit you for damage. Basically, keeps doing that. That is his phase 1. Very simple. Permanent ramp up. Well, semi-permanent, we'll get to that. Ramping up between turns, each turn gets more and more dangerous. And he's obviously hitting you for more damage. Big whoop. However, interesting gimmick. When he gets to about 150 health, he changes patterns. He gets stunned for a turn, however, which gives you time to either go all in and attack him, or try and rest and recuperate. Does that sound familiar? It should, because that's basically stagger. So, this big deer guy is going to be focused around getting him staggered, and when he is staggered, he will lose his strength. And that will be the only way to get rid of his strength and keep him from scaling. So this is an interesting, not quite DPS check challenge, but definitely a stagger check challenge. Can you get him staggered before he goes down? So because of that, he is going to, I think, interact a lot with block. There's another enemy in Slay the Spire who, if you fully block his damage, also gets stunned for a turn. So I think I'm going to take inspiration from that and sort of combine it into this. And we'll get into that. But basically, encouraging you to block and stagger him first, and then do damage. And sort of have that be a cycle. And as he does so, like I said, he'll pump up. Okay, so, second phase. After he recovers from stagger, he will change patterns. And once he changes patterns, he will, I think every other turn, use a special debuff, which makes it so you can play only one card in that next turn. Now that's a little difficult to translate into this game if we're doing it at lower levels, which I am because this is an Act 1 boss. The intention is for this to be like a boss you fight around level 4 or so. Like this is a tough fight, but it is not like super high level. So instead, I want to go with more of a general skill disruption, in that it keeps you from using certain skills that you would normally want to use, but let's see. Keeps you from using normal skills that you would want to use, but not completely remove them from your kit, if that makes sense. Favorite in 2 so far boss-wise? Honestly, the Kaiser Crab is just a really cool design. I really like him. Also, the Act 3 boss that is just 3 of the most annoying enemies from the previous game. Also very fun. But yeah, so. Let's decide on a few basic stats. So, I want this to be a longer fight, but not like drag on. So I think 250 with resistances is more than enough. Let me double check what some other enemies have less, but also. Yeah, maybe that's a little much. Even for a longer boss fight. You know what? Just not give him good resistances, and I think he'll be fine. Oh. Not 220. Stagger resistance 80, but he'll have some good ways to slow that down. I think I just want to keep his resistances neutral, actually. I think that's fun. Less to keep track of in a somewhat complicated boss fight. Light. Irrelevant. As we have this bad boy over here. So, Shimmering. We've used this passive once before on My Form Empties, And this is specifically a way to make sure an enemy has a specific attack pattern. It does not have like a normal list of skills that it can pick and choose from. This is, it does things when it is set to do those things. Whatever. However you want to explain it. So, it is very predictable, but in exchange, it's a little hard to actually deal with the skills themselves. So, I am going to, we have to kind of start with the passives when you're doing a shimmering one, especially with multiple attack patterns. So let's see. So, first off, let's do the strength passive. So, shimmering enemy sheet into the Stars of the City character sheet doc. There are some reasons why that might be a little difficult, but I will look into it. However, I do intend, depending on how long the stream goes, if we get to Kaiser Crab, and even if we don't, I might show you anyways, how I modified into the shimmering, because it is a little bit, troublesome. I will admit, it took me a second to refigure it out. And it does not copy over well, so you have to kind of do it individually. So, strength passive. So this is going to be, Stag's Might. Let's call it that. Gain 1 strength at the start. No, it would be at the end of each scene. In 1 strength at the end of each scene. Strength is not removed at the end of the scene. Moved. Strength is not removed from this unit at the end of the scene. This unit cannot be inflicted with feeble. Okay. And then lose all strength when stag. Boom. There we go. Okay. Boom. Boom. And boom. Okay. So, this guy now scales. Woo. He is dangerous. So, now that we have that, if we're making his whole thing him charging into the enemy, let's see. So, his whole thing is charging into the players, and the players want to block him and get him staggered, yada yada. I think we should give him sort of a kickback sort of thing if he hits an enemy block die, regardless of whether or not Flash wins or lose. And I think the best way to go about that is Tremor. I think having him gain Tremor if he hits into a block die would be good. So, reckless charging. When this unit clashes against an enemy block die with one of its offensive dice, it gains 1 Tremor, and we will give it a way to Tremor Burst itself, so that you don't necessarily need a Tremor ally on the team to make use of it. Oh my god. I am sleepy. I do think I spent a little too long playing Slay the Spire last night. I thought sleeping in would help with that. It did not. Doom. Okay. Good, good, good. And then... changing patterns. Boom. Here we go. So, when this unit covers from stagger, it changes its attack pattern to a the post stagger. The post boom post stagger pattern, and then stagger. Okay, so once you get the first stagger off, change, and it will also and I think the way I want to translate ringing, like I said before, this guy inflicts a status enrage, maybe, but it's not really much of an enraged state, because he gets more defensive. An enraged state would generally mean more aggressive, but he tends to get a little more defensive in this phase. So I'm thinking more along the lines of just post and pre-stagger pattern right now, but if you have any other suggestions, feel free to let me know. So, he inflicts ringing, which basically makes you only be able to play one card for a scene. That does not translate well into this system. So instead, I think something that disrupts the skills you can choose, and I think I have an idea for that. So, special status ringing. And let's, I think just using this image for the icon. Boom. Whenever a unit with ringing uses a skill, that skill cannot be used again until two different skills. Shimmering. Okay. You're thinking about this in sort of the wrong terms. So, yes, there is no light economy, but it is specifically meant to fulfill a purpose. You cannot have a set attack pattern if your enemy has to worry about using light. That is sort of the purpose of shimmering. And I will admit, I don't think this particular boss absolutely needs shimmering. I think these two absolutely do, for reasons we'll get into. This one is just kind of more of a practice thing, but I do think it is important to establish these shimmering enemies early on. This is just like how it's in Ruina. I don't get why people are mad at shimmering in Ruina. Shimmering in Ruina is literally just, they have an attack pattern. Most abnormalities, I think, essentially use shimmering, they just don't technically use shimmering. They don't say they use shimmering, but all their cards are 0 cost and they use them in a specific order. There is no problem with shimmering. People are just very weird about it. I'm sorry, I don't mean to, like, get into that, but shimmering fulfills a very specific game design purpose, is what I'm trying to say. It is intentionally avoiding the light economy because it's trying to do something that you cannot do with a light economy. And there are some effects in Stars of the City that do affect your enemy's light economy, but for the most part, it's not like, yeah. The enemy not having a light economy is not going to fuck you over, because the enemy is going to be specifically designed to have a predictable pattern that you can mess with on its own right. I think that making all of your bosses without shimmering is kind of the lazy option, because you are not throwing out unique challenges, you are not changing up the way you fight enemies, you're just, you know, doing the same things over and over again, and that's specifically what I'm trying to avoid with this little batch of enemies here, is I want to do enemies that are meant specifically to throw your players off. These are enemies meant to be disruptive and meant to have your players change their strategies instead of just relying on a kit that is specifically meant to do one thing and one thing only. Anyway, let's get back into it. Cannot be used again until 2 different skills have been used since. Are used after. So this will lock down essentially your 2 most recent skills, and then once you use a third, your oldest one will be unlocked. So you can't use the same skills over and over, but it also does not completely lock you out of your entire kit. So you have to strategize about, okay, if I use this now, I can't use it later, but it's not completely locking you down, is what I'm trying to get at. It makes you think about your rotation in a different way without completely messing you up, because, you know, most players are not going to be spamming the same skill a bajillion times. I'm struggling to figure out how to word this right, because this technically works. But yeah, okay. Yeah, I'm not reviewing Homebrew right now, but I don't know. Okay. Dagger pattern and inflicts special dagger for the first time. Status. Yeah, I do think that works for now. Special status. Ring. On all enemies. Oh, and now it's bolded. On all enemies. Cool. Okay. Nice. So, for speed dice, I think cutting out skill names, but keeping the things there. Okay. So I think for speed dice, I want 3 on the first phase and 4 on the second, which is already kind of set up here. Or, so this guy, No, I think I want to keep it like this, yeah. So... yeah, rigging can absolutely mess you up in the original game. I think this is, yeah, still punishing, but it is not debilitating. So... Let's do a strong attack first, and then 2 weaker attacks in the first phase, but then second phase sort of swap around and go into, sort of more weaker, yeah, more of a building up sort of pattern. So, kind of mix things up. So let's have... how do I format it with this guy? Okay, I just don't include light cost at all. Not just light 0, but no light cost whatsoever. Makes sense. So let's get rid of you guys. I brought in fluid, or not fluid sac, headless ichthys, is fact sheet. Okay, okay, let's have this be full charge, and he will lead with this. So 6, full charge. I already like these speed values, I'm not gonna change them. Full charge. So, this is going to be a big, I think just single die blunt skill. He does that big charge attack, yada yada. How do we... You're talking about what? I forgot exactly how I designed the Pekatula Dark Door, but I think it is intentional that they can... Yeah, I mean... Inflicts 3 bind on a Tremor Burst. Trigger Tremor Burst 3 times. I don't see a problem with that. That looks like it's as intended. Alright. So... The equivalent of this, if it's used for free... Yeah, if you're using it every turn once, but predictively... I think... Boom. Full charge. I think that's a solid attack. Oh. Yeah, I think that's pretty solid. And then let's do Clash Lose. Trigger Tremor Burst on self. I think I'm just gonna make this guy a Tremor enemy. He's a big blunt guy who hits you really hard by whacking you with his head. And that feels tremory to me. So I'm not just gonna have him be self-tremor, but also a little bit of tremor on you, which means he also needs to burst tremor, Clash Lose, trigger tremor burst on self, hit, trigger tremor burst on the target. Oh, no. Boom. Okay. So... do I want to do anything else, or is this just good? I think this might be good. Okay. Yeah, Timu Horsing. Sure, you can call it that. Definitely based around the same idea of a horse trampling opponents. And now, we get into his other two skills, which I think should be somewhere along the lines of like a 1-cost skill. Nothing too crazy. Let's do trampling hooves, and I think blunt and then slash, because like it's like he's hitting you with his feet and then he's like dragging his feet on the ground with you beneath it to justify the slash. Slash. And then hit, inflict. Let's say 2 tremor on this, and hit, inflict 1 tremor on the other. Oh wait, I had tremor. Yeah, I had it up here. Oh well. Inflicts paralyze? That is a good... That's a good option. I don't think I want that for this phase, but I do like it, and we'll probably look to put something on it for the next phase. But let's do... Trampling hooves. And... Trampling hooves. Boom. Okay. Boom. That. Yeah. So. And then post stagger pattern. I think. So let's do a more defensive one. Boom. I think since we talk about this one being more of the weaker skill, have it be more along the lines of like in between 0 and 1. So like, boom. Let's call this one. No, actually, it's not. I was gonna make it like these ones. I think I want like a moderately good skill here. Kind of bad skills there, but good for defense at least. And this one being something a little stronger. So let's actually have this one be the moderately good skill. Boom, boom. Let's call this... Boom. Flash win. Flash win. Boom, boom. Heart of Aspiration. Yeah, I could make a Heart of Aspiration fight at some point. That's probably a good one to consider. Nice early game abnormality. And then for this one... I'll just keep it like that. Give him a bit of a weak spot. And then... Let's see. I think... Boom. Oh, wait. I need to actually have there be a skill there. Oh, and I can rename that. No, this specifically has a name in the actual game. It's Plow. It says it right when it's using the skill. So, Plow. Boom. And this... Majestic antlers. And let's have this be Guardian Spirit. I don't know fully the lore of this thing yet. I don't know if it has proper lore that's explained in the game, because most of the lore is missing. Dark Door, buddy, sleep. Go sleep. The VOD will be here tomorrow, and you always know where to find me in the Discord if you ever have any questions, so prioritize your health. I can do without the extra 3 cents of ad revenue. No? Well, I can't make you, but I can certainly recommend. Boom. Let's do 1d6 plus 1. And this be 1d6. Boom, boom. Boom. And let's have this, after use, reduce an ailment on self by 2. Yeah. Boom. So this will be Majestic, Antlers, Guardian Spirit, and boom. Copy that between them. 3. Yeah. Insomnia can be a motherfucker. Yeah, I don't know how much access you have to healthcare and stuff, but might be worth talking to a doctor about. Boom. And let's see. Do I want to just have it be plow again? You know what? I could have it alternate. Alternate in the second phase between plow and something else, maybe? But, problem is that makes, one, the wording kind of weird on how I do it, and also I think it's important that it keeps using plow. It's the sort of important main idea of it. So, and let's replace that. Boom. There we are. Okay. So, we have this. Honestly, this is just a nice... It's a nice, much more simple boss fight than I was originally planning to make, but it is just good, reliable numbers that it can keep using without having to worry about light economy. And it stays dangerous, is sort of... It is something the players have to look out for. This is not the craziest of boss battles, but it is going to cause some problems, which I want it to. So, I think we are good here. Damage affinities, honestly, I like having them stay 0. I think for this thing specifically, I want to focus more on the idea that it is splashing into block dice recklessly. And in fact, on Clash lose against a block die, take twice as much resulting stagger. So yeah, instead of having affinities to any sort of damage types or anything, it specifically is weaker to block dice, which is kind of what I want. Okay. So, Phantom. This one, I could not get a screenshot in my own game. I tried to find the boss in Act 1. It just would not give it to me. So, I have instead downloaded someone's thumbnail so I can show you what it looks like. Huge thanks to Chicken Soup, the only YouTuber who has posted a clear thumbnail of this thing. At least that pops up when I Google the boss's name. But we can see here, it is a big ink monster. And it has, specifically, this little status here. The next so-and-so times Phantom loses HP, it only loses 1 HP instead. Basically, this guy can take 10 hits for free before it even starts taking damage. And that is going to translate into Stars of the City interestingly. In the actual Slay the Spire 2, he still takes the on-hit effects of the attacks. But I think for this, I want to throw a curveball at players. Take care, Dark Door. We will see you later. I want this guy to actually throw a curveball at players and just not take hit or crit effects for those 10 or so hits. I think I want these bosses to be throwing out curveballs and things that the players have to account for in their strategies. So having him be immune to hit effects for a little while is a good way to do that, because it's not something that is out of the player's control. They still absolutely will be wanting to hit the enemy a bunch, and that is, already something they're going to be doing. But in the meantime, their strategy is going to be a little different. Then he moves on to phase 2 once he loses all of that, and starts doing a different gimmicky mechanic that I am going to also have to work on. But hit points, because he's taking a bunch of hits for free, much lower hit points. Once he's down to a certain level, it's going to be basically hit him like normal. For his affinities, I don't want to go too crazy, but I think a little more slash damage while taking less stagger from you two. And that'll be good. Okay. So. Boop. Let's call this. This status is called Slippery, so let's call this the Slippery pattern. And let's call this one the Predation pattern. Why not? And boom, 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 yada yada. Okay. And we will actually set these something later. Okay. So, passives. Special status. Slippery. Let's figure out an icon for this. I did not, unfortunately, have one pre-chosen, but there should be some sort of inky or dodge focus. Actually, a net might not be the best, but I'll consider it. Cloud is already in use. Yeah. Unfortunately, I will say, I was planning to go a lot further into why I'm designing these bosses like this. Unfortunately, I am just stupid tired. I've been pretty damn tired this week. I don't know why. I probably just need to be eating better or something. Whatever. Anyway. You guys make sure to eat. If there's any of you listening right now, and you're hungry, go eat something. I will be here. I could even be your, YouTube video for the meal. I know most of us probably like to do that. Yes, I am calling you out as well as myself. Boom. Honestly, this could be a good one. Let's see. Oh, this could be nice. This line breaker effect. La da 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 da. Okay. Yeah, I think using that line breaker effect is good. Boom. Whenever this unit be hit, take only 1 damage and stagger. Ignore all hit and crit tags and reduce slippery by... Boom! There we are. So this is gonna be specific to this guy. I'm not planning on reusing this effect anywhere else, but it will be available if you want to use it for your own homebrew bosses. So... Elusive ink. Up. Starts battle with 10 of the special status slippery. Boom. So, what this guy does, and actually, do I want different patterns? Because I'm not actually sure if he changes his pattern. From what I've observed, what he does is, you see this tail? He will bring it closer to you, and the closer it is, the bigger his attacks are, and then he does one big attack, and then it retracts it again for it to come back. And so, I think the way I want to translate that is, instead of it being split among multiple turns of it creeping up on you, it's just the first attacks are real nasty, and then the last one is very dangerous. No, wait, what am I saying? I am tired. So, the first few attacks are manageable. Yeah. Small attack, medium, big attack with wound, buff self. Thank you. I cannot talk right now. Okay. So. Boom. I think what I want that to be then is 6. No, let's have it be 5, 3, and then 1. And the big one, you know, is the one that would inflict wound. Hello, Thomas. We are in the middle of making Vanta, in case you've just joined in. Boom. This guy, specifically. Ink Monster. Woo. And then the predation pattern is going to be the funky. Predation, I want a 12, and we are going to see why that is. And specifically, I want to add another line to this that says, if a skill with no remaining uses is among the skills on the attack pattern. Okay, I'm seeing two questions. Stat sheets for the Slay the Spire heroes? No, but I might consider that at a later point. There would probably just be enemy/ally units, instead of, like, player sheets, because I do not think you could make a reasonable player sheet with the unique mechanics those guys have. But enemy/ally sheets could be fun. And also, right now this is just enemies. It was specifically the boss designs that got me inspired as I was playing. There's obviously a lot of great game design stuff in Slay the Spire 2, and I might, take some inspiration from that in future mechanics. But as far as stuff for tonight, it is just going to be these bosses. Uses built on the attack pattern. Do not add that skills die to do not add that skills die. You know, just having it that say that is fine, honestly. Okay. So, this will be a special attack that has a limit of 1, so it only uses it the first turn it's available. And then it's going to use some other ones, but somewhat faster. Boom, there we are. So, what I'm going to do for this guy, slippery pattern, fairly predictable. Once it loses slippery, that's when it gets into the stronger, more dangerous ones. And also uses its big skill. And its big skill is going to be... So, this guy is going to inflict bleed. He inflicts wounds on you in the original game, but bleed and wounds are, while they are essentially the same thing on a thematic level, the actual way they work in the games are very different. So, his big attack is going to have its own special effect, and honestly, I think it's time to make that, just to show it off. Oh, no. So, let's do crippling stab. So attack weight is going to be 7, just so it can hit everyone. Big ol' pierce attack. Pierce. It's going to be actually pretty weak. Hit, inflict, to bleed, because it is already also using normal skills as well. But the main thing comes after attack. Or, not after attack, after use. Did I do after attack on the previous boss? No. Just this guy. After use, randomly determine one of the target's skills. That skill becomes unusable for the remainder of combat. Yep. It's exactly what it looks like. It is completely shutting down a single skill. Limit one use. There we go. Yeah. I might change how I format that. No, actually no. I think limit one use is fine among enemies. But yes. So, this is mimicking the actual effect of wounds as it is in Slay the Spire, of filling up your deck and keeping you from using the skills you want to use. And so, in the terms of this, it is, in a very similar vein to Ringing, meant to throw you off and make you stay on your feet. Make you have to adapt rather than using your old reliable. And since this is only used once, it's just one of your skills for the entire fight. It's not going to be like continuously shutting down everything. It is purely one skill to become a little troublesome. Okay. And the rest of the fight will be fairly predictable. Because he has, you know, two mechanics that will throw off the players. That is fun. So, I don't know what I want to do for other passives, because I don't want to leave him purely alone on the slippery front. He needs to actually do some stuff passively, but I cannot think what I want him to do. Let's get to the skills and figure out what he needs. So, first skill. Encroach. That's not how you spell encroach, is it? No way, that does not look right, but it's not. Is that? Okay, if it's not giving me the big old thing, or maybe it's just because capitalized, it's not trying to, weird. Maybe I am better at spelling that, I think. Anyway. Boom. Fierce. Honestly, 1d8 plus 2 is fine. That is not a super dangerous skill. It matters not. So, encroach. Boom. And hit, inflict 1 bleed. This is the not too dangerous skill. And then, encroach. And then, boom. Let's see, what would this one be? This is the medium range attack. So it's like right around there. It's not like super intimidating, but it is getting closer and letting you know that it is trying to wind up for a big thing, so... Which... Oh. Maybe just approach. Encroach into approach. No, let's switch that around, actually. Approach into encroach. And this will be... I think I want this to be slash then pierce. Slash. Boom. There we are. And that brings us to the final one. Boom. Approach. Does its attack have a name? I should have brought up like a... I can look up one of the videos, like the one that this is from, to see. Slay this Spire Phantom. Ooh. How do you determine enemy hit dice? You mean the offensive dice and all that? The dice on the skills? Generally, I'd say look at the skills that are available to players, the numbers and all that, and slightly up the numbers. I think enemies should have slightly larger numbers than players, because players will generally be building around more concrete strategies that are actually tried and proven, rather than enemies who are, you know, working with a gimmick. Players don't usually gimmick as much as enemies do. Players have a lot more access to different tools for problem solving and are adaptable, so I like to have enemy numbers be slightly inflated to account for that. I can go more into it later. I think I talk about it a little bit in the GM's tip video, but I also intend to make a little section in the doc about designing enemies. My recommendations with that, so stay tuned for that, I suppose. Okay. Let's... to bleed. Let's see. Okay. Let me... He does not appear to have a name for his big stab. It does not look like. Yeah, no. Cool. Yeah, no. This is what this stream is for, is to talk about design stuff. So, giant stab. No point in beating around the bush. It's a really big stab. Boom. I can get rid of the costs, actually. And on use, I think he should gain some poise. Gain poise. Ink very much brings up the idea of poise in my head. I think that's sort of the thematic relevance there, and also, you know, if I'm showing this thing as being more of a setup hunter, then I absolutely want to give it poise. No, actually, don't gain poise on that one. That's the payoff. Okay. So, approach, encroach. approach. Oh. Yeah. Yeah, I did also consider sinking for this guy, because I feel like ink can also be sort of sinking themed, but ultimately I decided against that, specifically because he's more meant to be sort of a damage-focused dude. He's got the big stabby tail, and that does not scream, oh, look out for this guy staggering you. No, this seems to just be, you know, watch out for him stabbing you to death. Stagger should be the least of your worries with this dude. So, but, okay. I approach, giant stab. Actually, if I'm going to make this guy... I think I want to make him faster on the... Yeah, I mean, bleed works. It's definitely what comes to mind with, like, a giant, stabby thing. And also, yeah, we talked about wounds, so... I do think bleed works, it's just the actual mechanic of wounds is represented more through crippling stab. That's essentially its purpose. So, it's a bit different from how it works in the actual game, but we're not trying to bring in the game directly. More so, we are trying to bring in the design philosophy of the bosses and why they have the mechanics they have, rather than translating the mechanics one-to-one. Okay. You know, I like the general idea I've come up with for this, but there is absolutely something missing. Ugh. I wish I hadn't stayed up so late playing the game last night, because now I don't have any energy to make the bosses that I said I'd make. Troublesome indeed. Yeah, I mean, this guy fulfills the ideas I had when I set out to make him. Unfortunately, he doesn't have anything beyond that. And that is a problem. That is absolutely a problem. I think it might be worth it for me to take a break on this for now. I used up a good bit of energy hanging out with family. It was fun, but I am a little bit tired now. Ugh, I hate doing this. Fridays are an interesting time for me to have chosen for this. I don't know if Sundays would necessarily be better, but I might move these over to a different day of the week, just so I can do this with more energy. What day would work? I don't know. I'll figure out my schedule. That is for me to figure out, not to ramble to you about, but I do think it's good to take a break here. But I have a few things I promised to do, and I want to do them tonight. One, I want to talk about why these bosses stood out to me, because I don't feel like I really got that across. And also, I want to show you how to do shimmering enemies properly. So, let's grab this guy's stat block, because... No, actually, no. I will show you what happens if you try and copy over a shimmering enemy. Boom. Boom. See this? This doesn't look too bad. You just, you know, drag it over. See? Like that. And then... Oh. Uh-oh. It gets stuck. It does not let you continue to move this. And I've tried to find some ways around it, and it does not work. So instead, we have to make every shimmering enemy design block from scratch. Well, not fully from scratch, but you get what I mean. We have to make the shimmering part from scratch. So delete light regen, move this down 1, get this out of the way. Merge cells on this. So now we have one big cell. Rename speed dice to shimmering. And make this the appropriate size. However, as you'll see, this moves that like that. So what we now need to do is we need to table options, table style, wrap text. And so this, okay, we'll make that do that. But this is intended, and all we need to do is select up here and move this down a few rows. And now, fix that, yada yada. Yeah, it takes some finagling, but you can absolutely get the hang of it when you've been working with this for as long as I have. Boop, boop. Just get it all nice and situated in a way that actually looks pleasing. Okay. I think I'll have to do it. So, now we have a little spot for shimmering, and we can place it right here as we want. If we copy this, boom, copy it in. Now we have a lot of room to work with. Yada yada yada. Okay. So that should teach you how to make your own little shimmering stat blocks. It is unfortunately not easy. I wish it was better, but as far as I know, there is not a reliable way to make shimmering enemy speed dice work in the Foundry module. I might talk to Tsubasa about that if I plan to use shimmering a lot more with certain bosses. Boom. But that is for future problems and future solutions. Right now, I want to talk about why I decided to make these guys in the first place. So, Slay the Spire. Obviously, it's a roguelike. You're building your deck. You're putting a plan together. And these guys are meant to specifically test your plan. And specifically, test if you can have the plan go wrong. Just about every boss is in some way meant to fuck you over and just throw a wrench in everything you're trying to do. More so than any other enemy, though Slay the Spire 2 does have a lot of the generic enemies also counter certain strategies. But these guys are designed to counter different strategies in different ways, and in ways that do not completely shut you down, while also absolutely changing the way you play the game during their boss fight. A boss fight against these guys is not like a normal fight in really any way. So, the reason I really like that in regards to Stars of the City is I feel like even with all of the different skills you can have, even at level 9, or even when you have the full 9 skills, 5 ego, all that, I feel like there's still, if you're playing this game a lot, you're still going to have a sort of normal game plan that you're going to be using for most fights. It's going to get a little boring. And so what I want to encourage GMs to do is to really throw out bosses that will specifically mess up your player's strategy. It is okay to do that as long as you make sure they have the tools to adapt. Combat should not just be a test of builds, it should be a test of improvisation and thinking on your feet and strategizing. And I feel like that's kind of missing in a lot of the enemies that I've been making. You know, you've got all the different statuses and stuff, but statuses do not necessarily make it for a good fight all the time. Sometimes they can be interesting, but sometimes it's just, oh, you know, I'm taking a bit more damage as part of this hit, yada yada. Oh, I don't want to get these statuses stacked up on me because it'll be a bit more damage, so I'll just clash all the enemy attacks and be fine. Yeah, you want your players to have a challenge at any level, even when they're capped. Yeah. So, yeah, and obviously not every fight needs to be a crazy gimmick fight. You do need the generic human fights to have a little bit of filler, a little bit of general ass-kicking. But because this system does not have, like, a lot of narrative combat integration, like, you're not taking many narrative-focused actions when you're in combat. You are not, like, it's not like D&D where you can, you know, throw someone off the cliff, or really utilize the terrain to your advantage, or, like, do all sorts of, like, utility actions. It's very much focused on the combat and the core of the combat, and so that needs to not only have a strong base, but also have strong deviations from the baseline. Strong times in which it feels like you are coming up with completely different strategies than you normally would. Yeah, you're not talking shit while you're kicking ass. That is a perfect way to put it. So, combat very much, and there is, you know, some stuff you can do with narrative integration, and I sort of intend to show that off if I ever get into more of a long-term campaign. But it is a difficult balance to maintain, and something you have to think about when you are, especially if you're playing with people who are more in it for the roleplay aspect, and don't want to, like, people who are in it for the roleplay aspect, honestly, I think they're the ones who will even get the most fun from a fight like this, because it is not just, oh, I have to do, like, the meta thing. You are not having theater kids do math, you are having theater kids come up with solutions, if that makes sense. And that, honestly, is probably one of the better ways to get players engaged. So, obviously I wouldn't throw something like this out too early, but I think like level 4 is the time at which you want to be considering these ways to mess with what skills the players can use. That's something I want to mess with a lot more going forward. It only shows up occasionally in Ruina just because of, one, they were, you know, they were still figuring out the system and all that. Now we've figured out the system, we've had people in Discord absolutely optimize it, there's room to play around with more interesting things. And also, yeah, just generally, yeah, I'm having a hard time fully explaining it, but hopefully I'm getting the idea across. Basically, I don't want combats to fall into too many patterns, and I want weird stuff like these guys to break the patterns. So, the last one I want to talk about, and I'm not gonna make it because, my throat hurts today, and I'm tired, and I kinda wanna end the stream soon, but the Kaiser Crab. And this is another thumbnail from Chicken Soup, so thanks to them. This is a boss in which you are not actually fighting the big crab itself, you're fighting its two claws on either side. And if you attack one, you leave yourself open to the other one. And that was one of the big mechanics that I really wanted to adapt sometime tonight, and unfortunately I'll probably just do that off camera, but you will get this fight at some point. And I really like the idea of bouncing back and forth between which direction you're facing, and making sure that neither you or your allies are hit by attacks that you are open against. Making sure, like, oh, your tank's facing this way, and so they can protect from this claw, and then you'll just fight the other claw. Yeah, bunch of backstab damage. It is a very cool, like, field gimmick that I think is not obtrusive, but definitely sways how you approach the battle. And also, big fucking crab monster is cool. But he's a really cool boss. I've unfortunately not been able to face him actually alone. I've only faced him with friends, and I want to fight him properly at some point. But really good boss design. Most of the bosses in Slay the Spire 2 so far have been really good. But yeah. Okay. I am not going to put this stuff in the dock. Today, I am going to finish these boss battles off screen at a later point. Not tomorrow, at least not fully, but I definitely want to get these done and have them be available, because like I said, I've specifically chosen these that you can just throw them in as they are, and they will fit into the weirder parts of the city. Whether they be monsters that actually live in the city, or are like experiment things or whatever. Who knows? But they can be thrown into your campaigns. Hello, Aquabs. You're unfortunately just joining in as we're wrapping up, but I have created two kind of unfinished boss battles for Slay the Spire enemies in my Stars of the City Project Moon tabletop RPG. So if you want to stay tuned on that, you can absolutely head into the Discord if you're not in there already, and you will be updated when they are released. But these were pretty fun to make. I am still sleepy. I need to sleep. That really is all it comes down to. So, I am sorry that I've been complaining about that basically all stream, but I was really excited to do these, and then the day came and went, and oh boy. Life happens. Oh, but it has genuinely been fun to talk about this. I just wish I could talk about it better, so. But yeah, I did not have also much inspiration to do much other stuff tonight, just because, yeah, I am a little fixated on Slay the Spire. I'm not gonna pretend like this wasn't also trying to feed that fixation, but I genuinely do believe that these are boss designs you can take a lot of inspiration from, and are very well made in their original game. But I'll get back to more traditional Stars of the City content soon. I do need to wrap up the 0.7. It's coming along fine. I just need to sort out a few more of the pages and also fix milestones. Just a little more. Just a little more, and then we'll be there. Darkest Dungeon, yeah, also is a pretty good choice. I could do that. I will look into them. I have not played Darkest Dungeon 2. I've played some of 1, but I've never fully finished it. But yeah, I definitely want to make more gimmick enemies, and like real major gimmick enemies, not just like there are some abnormalities I've made that are, you know, a lot weirder, specifically like Dream Devouring Silk Current and My Forum Empties. Definitely are some weird ones that really make you reconsider how you play the game. But also, I want more. I want more weird enemies that even go beyond some of what Ruina does. Ruina has some weird enemies, but I think I can get weirder at some point, and I want to. We can get real weird. Okay. I think that is gonna be it for this week. Next week, I'm not going to finish these. Like I said, they'll be off camera. Next week will be something more traditional. I'm not entirely sure what, but... Okay. Yeah, maybe it'll be LobCorp stuff and, like, ordeals. That sounds fun. We just got the Amber ordeal, obviously, so... Okay. Well, that will do it for now. Thank you all so much for sticking around, those of you who did. Those of you who didn't, I hope you had a good night. And I hope, if you're watching, that you're having fun catching up on the VOD. Sorry to cut things short again, but life happens. Whatever. Okay. I will see you all, when do I want to do my Mirror Dungeon run? Maybe Monday, maybe Tuesday, but... See you all then. Bye-bye.